All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. First thing I wanted to say is thank you for being here. It's exciting for us to know that you want to know about our implementation. We're genuinely excited to share this information with you. We were talking beforehand about how little time we've had to share out. We've been really focused on our implementation and getting things out the door. And so I hope that this can be the start of an era where we are pushing some information out to you. One thing that is really helpful as we go through this presentation is if you can be thinking of questions for us, either questions that we can answer today when we talk about the toolkit and the browser extension and mapping, or questions that we can follow up through other venues to share information about our implementation. It's a lot of information and it's kind of commonplace to us. We kind of sometimes forget what's special about it. So about that implementation, over the last year, we implemented what we call the Library Collections Access Platform, or LCAP. It is the replacement for our Voyager integrated library system, Millennium, what we call it an e-resources management system. We had a separate ILS for e-resources, and numerous internal applications that we had built up over the course of 25 years. This was a long project, I think, by most implementation standards. We kicked off in September of 22. Several people have asked about our staff size. We had about 3 full-time employees at the time of kickoff with EBSCO. Over the course of the last couple of years, we built up that team. And by the time we implemented, we had, depending on how you count it, between 15 and 20 people working full-time on this project across the library, as well as many people working to contribute their expertise and time to implement across the library. Some of them are here today, so thank you. We had to break up our implementation to get it done. We started by ripping off the Band-Aid and doing acquisitions at the start of our fiscal year last year in October of 24, followed up with ERM in December. We're going to talk a little bit about the National Library for the blind and print disabled, as well as CRS. There are 2 other FOLIO implementations. They went live in June, the beginning of June of this year, followed by what most people think of as our main implementation, the library part of the library, which we call LCSG, at the end of June. And finally, authorities had to come last in August of this year. We are now totally live on FOLIO and migrated off of Voyager. This is a slide that some of you might have seen before, how we kind of capture that from a high level. You can see the white squares are legacy systems, Voyager, Millennium, catalogs hard-coded to the ILS, and a multitude of workstation applications, macros, and access databases that cropped up. I think many of you have this situation. We've got a bunch of smart people working at the library who, when they're confronted with a problem, develop their own solutions. Some of those were known to us, some of them were not, and so it made migrating really tricky. From there, everything in the colored squares is LCAP. Blue are tools and things that we developed internally. Orange are the hosted pieces that we work with EBSCO to implement. So some people might remember the flying spaghetti monster diagram from the last time we did this. This is kind of our new flying spaghetti monster, but it's actually more complicated than this. So in our old Voyager implementation, we had separate databases for the National Library for the Blind and Print Disabled, as well as the Congressional Research Service. Those ended up being separate implementations of FOLIO. So we implemented 3 separate FOLIO systems with 3 separate locates. We also have a separate OPAC for our authorities that we call the Authority Search application. We also use PubFinder for e-resources. You can see here also scale, and these are not to scale, but the LCSG implementation is much bigger than the other 2. And it's also more complicated. We implemented ECS in order to manage some kind of complex permissioning requirements that we have internal to the library. So we have multiple tenants, many new workflows to figure out, and that kind of gives you a sense of the complexity. how do we deal with that complexity? Well, a lot of development. Last time I presented for you guys, I think we had identified 123 new features, or I guess a lot of them were existing features, but 123 features that were going to be required to be developed in Folio for us to go live. That number has since grown significantly. This is, I think, an old number that I just pulled today, 161. I think in reality, it's higher than that. So we've been working really hard with folks at EBSCO and also on other teams to make sure that all the features that we needed to meet our unique needs were in Folio at Go Live. But not everything is a development problem, right? And certainly not a Folio development problem. There were situations where what we needed just didn't align with what Folio does, right? This was especially true around MARC data, right? We are very much a MARC shop. People are used to searching in MARC and, accessing their very specific subfields that they're used to, they need to do their work every day. And the way we are trying to transition long-term away from MARC and be more inclusive of other standards, namely, BibFrame is a big part of that. So kind of transitioning people out of a MARC-only mindset has been difficult, and it can't all happen at once. So we needed to come up with some ways to provide interim access to that specific MARC data, searching, and other things that are kind of hard-coded to MARC workflows. We also had a lot of unique requirements that just weren't appropriate to add to the community build. All of the development that's been done on our behalf in Folio goes back to the community build. So things like local validation routines. We have some pretty tricky requirements there that wouldn't be appropriate for us to add to the community build. Finally, insufficient time or bandwidth. You saw like the amount of development that we were doing. We had to really prioritize, and there were some things that didn't make the cut, right? There were some things that didn't make it. Also, insufficient time. There were situations where we couldn't wait for the next flower release to have a solution for something, so we had to come up with something else. I think I would add to that, there were problems that popped up along the way that we just couldn't have anticipated at the beginning, and we had to really be responsive and agile in responding to those. So if it's not a Folio development problem, then how do we solve it? We really have two options. Configuration is one, and we're really grateful to the folks at EBSCO who taught us a lot and kind of held our hands as we learned about the options for configuring in Folio and how we might be able to leverage available tools to meet our needs. We're going to talk about that a little bit today with custom mapping and local tools. We're going to talk about two local tools that we use for a lot of our solutioning, but it's an incomplete list, and Jeff's going to kind of hint at some of the others. If you would like to hear more about these, let us know. We can set something up. So Jeff, you want to come talk about those?
Hi, okay. So as Caitlin just alluded to very well, there were some gaps in our needs for going live with our LCAP system. And on this particular slide, kind of what we've outlined here are the things that were handled by different groups or tools within the library in the white boxes. So we had integration work that was built by developers at the Library of Congress to integrate with our financial system and other things, to work on data flows, to do integrations with like tools that you might not know about, but like the Braille and audio reading download service that's part of the National Library Service for the blind and print disabled. But in the middle here, we have these green boxes, which were handled by essentially our team, which was the same team that did the main implementation planning around Folio. And the three of them that we're going to discuss a little bit are the collections metadata exchange, the browser extension, and the toolkit. I just want to talk about the first one for one moment to answer some questions potentially and to queue up future conversations. This collections metadata exchange is a tool that we initially built out to facilitate our migration from Voyager and legacy systems over into Folio. Currently, we're using it as a place where we're maintaining a replica of folio data and therefore allowing our internal users access to the MARC data and other data in folio on a platform that's easier for them to do granular searching, including like looking for particular MARC subfields or fixed fields in MARC, or looking for certain things in item or holdings data, et cetera. So we have built that out. It's something, for various reasons, we're not using a tool like MetaDB. So this also works for reporting for us as well. And then we also have introduced other tools that Christy's going to demo in a minute, very exciting, to meet a lot of workflow needs. But I wanted to also mention that searching in CME, which is really a nice application, it's a web application, we can link directly to Folio. There's a lot of nice things about it. Nonetheless, we have a real need to do searching within Folio quite a lot, which all of you understand if you're already working in Folio. So I want to talk for a few minutes about custom mapping and configuration that we did at the Library of Congress to enhance searching options for staff. And I'm not going to get in great detail, but I'm just going to give you a couple of quick examples. We will share this, the mapping files and the workflow that we're doing currently is all stuff that we're willing to share with the community. My colleague, Dave Durden, is a metadata librarian who did a lot of work in setting this up and making this actually quite shareable. But some examples I wanted to talk about are identifiers. Like, there already are a lot of default identifiers mapped in Folio. We found like we could do a lot more stuff with identifiers, and they're actually really easy to search against in Folio itself, in the inventory app. So on the left-hand side of the screen, there are just quick examples of our live catalog with 042 and 043 MARC fields being mapped to identifiers. Just an idea, other people might not have a use case for this, but the CYAC kayak code comes from an 042 field in MARC. That's Children and Young Adult Cataloging, which is a program at the Library of Congress. That code shows up in the MARC records. We can map that thing over to the instance record, and you can just type in kayak and you get all the search results in inventory app. Right? And I don't know that people really need to search on the geographic area code from the 043, but hey, if it's there, we can put it into the identifier and search on it. So we did a lot of analysis, and we're not done with this work. We're thinking through use cases. We can get a lot of stuff into the instance record. On the right-hand side, because we are using locate as a discovery layer, and it's not based on MARC, but rather than on the Folio instance data, we struggled a lot to think about 880 fields, which are a big priority for us at the library. You can do a lot with it in the default Folio mapping, but we really struggled with titles, which there's only like one title in Folio. We don't have that sense in the instance record of having equivalency between two different versions of the same title, like a MARC 880 implies. So we were like, well, let's create a new title type. So we can explicitly declare that this other title here in Chinese is the equivalent of the primary one, allowing other systems, including locate, to pick up on that in a way that it can't just pick up on any variant alternative title. So we did quite a lot of work on this, and again, we'll share out this documentation, but our colleague Dave, who did this work, graphed it all out into these nice tables where we can look at the whole MARC record, talk about what we have mapped, which is quite extensive, and what required custom configuration, like new labels or whatever in the Folio inventory settings. And then I want to talk about a few of the lessons learned relating to mapping. Our ideas are still evolving around this. The Folio instance is not the same as MARC, and it's a derivative format. This is actually, in some ways, cool. We can do things with it that were not possible in the MARC itself. In our previous catalog, which was a Voyager online public access catalog, we did a lot of custom work to make things show up. And we had people writing code that said, if there's such and such a subfield and the fixed field position this does this, then let's display something in a particular way. We can't do that in the locate world right now, but we can change the data around, or we can do mapping, and we can say, hey, let's map something in a cool way to meet that need in a lot of cases. So that's something that's kind of fun. We can actually enhance the Folio instance records in some cases in ways that unless you're a cataloger and know Mark very well, you wouldn't understand what the Mark data was. We can explode that data a little bit in the Mark instance in the Folio instance record. Some of this will require data work. So we might have to go into the Mark records themselves, add a local field, map that local field to the Folio instance record. It's not like the most efficient thing in the world, but it's something we're working on. So that's the second bullet point. We're thinking about adding new local data that can then be transformed into something that's maybe more descriptive, better than a fixed field element that can actually describe our records. And then the third takeaway point is that the built-in Folio rule processor is limited and underdocumented. Dave told me that there's also some problems with compatibility, forward and backward compatibility with the mapping rules. It's not a really easy system to work with. It's doable, but there are some limitations. So at the library, we are considering in the long term some other options. What we've been discovering is that in a lot of ways, the link in Folio between a Mark record in SRS and an instance record in the inventory app, it's a pretty artificial link, more than we recognized at first. And there are a lot of things we could do to just change the instance record if we wanted to. And that's something that we're going to be exploring and testing over time. So those are my comments about mapping. We will be sharing a lot more documentation about this and our mapping files. So that's to come. And I'm going to turn it over to Christy for some demo.
Okay, thanks everybody. So before I demo, I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide and just give you an overview of what the tools are. So we have a Folio macros browser extension. Macro Express doesn't work all that well with Folio. We needed some solutions. And so we have a wonderful colleague named Whit who created these tools, both of these tools, and maintains them as enhancing them to work with Folio to increase efficiency, just what macros do, but it's got a lot more, and I'll show you that. It supports templates, mark templates, holdings, items, POs, predictive patterns, orders, vendors, like any kind of form that's in Folio, it can work with. We do complex validation, creating authority records from a bib record, a transliteration tool, single record import. So we have data import like locked down now because it's too powerful for everybody to have, but catalogers still need to get a record in now and then. So we do have a couple of options for them to still be able to import records, as well as in the name, macros to increase efficiency and text expansion. And the productivity toolkit, it's a browser-based suite of applications. I'll walk you through some of the apps in a second, but some of the select functionality is a pretty robust copy cataloging app, Auto Dewey, which creates a Dewey or gives you a Dewey number from an LC call number, 8 kinds of labels, 6 kinds of QA checks, item sorters for SIP and copyright. We have a lot of specialized needs. We're a huge organization with a lot of different, things, and so this allows us to respond to those. And I'll talk a little bit about that whenever I'm going through some things too, as well as some fulfillment support apps. So because metadata management is my thing, this is going to be very heavily geared towards cataloging. There are other things, but so I'm going to do a live demo. I think I'm gonna, and I hope I do this right. This is so exciting. Okay, let's see here. Let me make sure. Am I still sharing my screen?
You can do, is it Windows, yeah, Control,
Okay.
Shift H, we'll get rid of it.
Okay. Oh, I think I have to,
You can do it again and it will come back.
well, I need to change my, I have to go back to Zoom. Oops. Escape. Oh, can I? Oh my God, oh my God, so sorry. Don't do that. Okay. There you go. I haven't used Zoom in a long time, okay, here we go. More. I think that's where share is. No, share is that big share button. Okay. Here we go.
It's sharing.
It's sharing on Zoom. Working on Zoom, so we gotta look on screen.
How do I do that? Thank you, Caitlin.
Yeah. Present mode, so your screen is text and present mode.
Yeah, okay, so that's the PowerPoint, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And then you want the browser?
With the browser. There we go. Thank you, Caitlin.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, great. Oh, so it's Control Alt Shift H. Thank you. Okay. So I brought up an instance record. The first thing I'm going to show you is the browser extension. So you can trigger it two ways. There is this cute little icon up here, or Control Spacebar. And this brings up the browser extension. So the browser extension responds to where you are in Folio. It knows what page you're on, and it only offers you the options to act on that you can do in that space. So you can't apply a holdings template in QuickMark, something like that. Right now, the only thing you can do is add a holding to this instance. A few of the other kind of nifty features, we didn't have search history, a robust search history. So this offers what you have worked on and looked at, and then the searches that you have. Tabs. So because we're coming from a Voyager environment, there were lots of windows and people really wanted to be able to see those. We know that it's difficult to get into a web environment like this, but we're trying to kind of ease that a little bit. And this is one of those tools. So it just tells you what folios we have a lot of folios. And so what folios you have open, and then where we are here, what tabs I have. So you can kind of jump back and forth if you're working in lots of different ones. We'll do text expansions in a second. It's very, sort of typical macro stuff. Here you can add a record from anywhere. You can search any kind of record from anywhere. It is super cool. I think it's super cool. So you're not alone. But let me show you what some of this stuff does in Mark. Yes. Okay. So WIT is awesome. Kalila, you are absolutely right. So some of the things that you can do in QuickMark, trigger this again, we have a lot more stuff now. Fancy paste, which is my favorite name, it's difficult to cut and paste in Folio. And we have catalogers who want to take like a block of subject headings from this record and put them in this record. This lets you do that. Importing Mark, again, this is a way that you can do a single record import. We also have a new feature where you can, I think the match point is an 010, maybe in 0202, but you can match on something and overlay a record. Validate Mark, we have really complex validation routines, both authorities and bibs. And so that's actually one of the things that's still under construction because it's so complex, but we have the authorities validation is in beta right now and continues to be improved. Sort, our catalogers like the 906, the 925, and the 955 at the top of the record. And so if I click sort, it did that. It just shot them all up to the top. The other one, our colleagues at NLS don't like that, and they want everything numerical. So we created simple sort to kind of, but I think that's one of the nice things. This is so But like having tools like this has been really great because that was something right at go live when we realized, oh, we don't have this. They asked for it. WIT is brilliant and said, here you go. And so we're able to respond to people, you know, not exactly in real time, but very often we can do what they need. Transliteration, that is built on script shifter from our NetDev colleagues, network development and Mark Standards office colleagues. Shout out to Matt. Through here and oops, hold on just a second. Let me go back. So this isn't going to work here, obviously, but this will allow you. We have, I think the statistic is like, it's half or just over half of our materials are not in English. So we have a lot of specialized needs like this. The plus auth lets you create an authority record from any space. So let's pretend like we don't have an authority record for this. We actually don't have an authority record for this guy. So if I'm here, I've got my cursor here, I invoke the macro, I click plus auth. This will open up in Mark Authority. And then it creates an authority record. The more data that there is that would be appropriate for it, the more data goes in. This is just a pretty simple record. What do I want to show you? And open in Marva too, because our catalogers work both in BibFrame and Mark. So this lets them go back and forth. And in Marva, there's a place to open in an LCAP. So it's like kind of a round trip thing. Macros. So all of the macros and all of the templates live in the same space. And and the way that you run them is there are little keys here and you just learn how to do them. Sometimes, you know, you put it where you put your cursor wherever you want to have it, run the thing, it spits out the thing. I will now, you might wonder, how do you make all of these? Well, we have a whole thing, like a whole settings thing. Mark macros. So we have something called the macros store, which is where we have, I mean, it's almost 100 different like cataloging templates. Where people can take them and import them immediately if they want them. It's kind of part of what we think of as like the standard build. You can create your own. You can edit, you can derive, you can export. They're just JSON files, so you can export them. We have divisions are starting to create their own and then kind of have like little repositories and they're sharing them, which was really exciting to see because everybody's really getting into it, you know? So let me show you here. To create a template, you can import a Mark file, which is usually the easiest way to do it. Otherwise, you have to like put in all the fixed fields, and that's not great. Creating other kinds, so insert mark tags is exactly what it sounds like. The complex insert edit mark tags this allows you to do a lot more, and to insert, to edit, and then like find and replace, and you can use regex too if you're really going, you know, more complex. We have a few other kinds as well. The if this then that is conditional logic. It's under construction, and macros chaining. So if you have 4 macros that you want to run in order, this is how you do it. So text expansion, exactly. You just create some short text, and then type out whatever you want, and it'll print it. I will, because I always use this one, because these are my cats. So if you 2 kitties, Winston and Pippa. So, which everybody wants in their records. So I'll go back to the settings now. This is really helpful. So you can use this with the complex macro, which allows you to prompt. And so for something like serials units. So these are all of these divisions that we have, and there's, you know, it's a controlled list, but there are a lot of them, and to remember them can be difficult. Same thing with like the PO cancellation reason. So you can create a list of all of these, and then you create a macro to then prompt you when you invoke the macro to choose one of these, and then it will populate the field. It's pretty helpful. And this is something that WIT just anticipated, and it turned out it was really, really popular. It's really, really helpful. I'll show it to you in action. It's another ridiculous thing that I've made. So if I let's see. Macro search. I made one about pickles. So dill. So if I create this, what pickles do I want? I can choose any kind. And I want a Cornichon today. And so I'm going to submit this. And what it did is it adds the 500 Cornichon and a 985 vinegar. And then I would sort it and it would go to where it needs to be. Form templates, same thing. So these are any other kind of forms that aren't MARC. We have, I'm probably not going to demo these today because these are not my area of expertise, especially the acquisitions focus apps, but these have been tremendously helpful and very, very popular. And the same thing with the serials publication predictive patterns, because even if they're coming, we needed them now. And so we were able to do that. And so we have a kind of a core set of the ones that we use the most that everybody can take in and import. MARC validation right now we have under construction, but we want our users to be able to understand what's happening. And so here they can either look at what the rules are. Here are the rules. Or if you want to look at them in more detail and exactly what's happening, this is how you do it. So WIT's built in a lot of, and I'll show this to you in the toolkit too, a lot of transparency in these kinds of things because people kind of want to know what's happening. And so, and then the settings, we just have a few things that make it a little bit better. If this is a non-English, like non-Latin authorities thing, we'll flip this. This is how you can export all of them, import all, share them with your neighbors, all that. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to hop over to the toolkit. Oh, I have to show you one more thing, which I think is, it's fun. It's also incredibly helpful. So my pink, this is our training environment, my pink folio. This is production. Mine's orange. This is NLS production. Mine is teal. You can change the color of your nav bar using the browser extension, and it is fun because it's fun to have a pink folio, but it has proven tremendously helpful because, you know, we're doing things all the time. I have almost imported stuff into production that I didn't mean to, you know, things like that. And so having the color is actually incredibly helpful. So let's go to the toolkit, which I closed. There we go, training toolkit. So this is the productivity toolkit. I will go to the productivity apps. So these are the ones that we have built. There are more being built now. Like I said, there are a lot of different, like there's some acquisitions apps here. We have a number of fulfillment apps. I'm going to focus on the metadata ones. This gives you the opportunity, you can search and then act on it and then choose, okay, I found this record. Now what do I want to do with it? Or if you know exactly what you want to do with it, you can just go to the app and start working. So if I'll show you copy catalog. So we're using OCLC APIs to do this. If I want to just pull a keyword, we can also limit by item type if we want. You can do advanced searching using their syntax. Keyword, broccoli, why not? It's always vegetables. I'm not very creative. So it brings up everything. This is sort of infinite scrolling, so you can just keep looking for whatever you want. The suggestions are just to help our catalogers. You know, they can assess however they want, but these are kind of little hints. So all of our cataloging is in English. The materials aren't, but the cataloging is. And so if this isn't, we're not going to use it. If it's low level cataloging, if it's full level, or if it's something that we have holdings and it came from the library. So I'll take one here and just do this. So it also lets you know if it's an e-resource record, just so people know what they're getting into. It doesn't have an LCCN, and I don't have an LCCN in hand, so I'm going to hit 0. We're gonna insert an LCCN, and this also detects, we have a number of different kinds of cataloging workflows. This detects what kinds would be an option. So we'll just say this is original cataloging. I'm gonna say it's 3. We're going to make up an LCCN 8888777666 and proceed to import. So as you can see, we are still not in Folio yet, but it looks like Folio and feels like Folio, which has been really helpful to our catalogers. You can take a look at this, see if you like it. I love this. This is great. I really want this. And you save and close. And now it's part of the database. And in a moment, we will be prompted to go to the record if we want to. Or there are a couple of other things that could happen. Adding holdings and items with a different app. Do we want to go to Folio? Which, if we open it up, it's exactly what you expect. There it is. And now you can add it up. This also does overlays, which you can imagine. I'm not going to show you. You know what that looks like. Oops. Oh my gosh. There we go. We have auto DUI. Like I said, you just either bring up a record or look up a number, gives you a DUI number. We have labels. We have so many different kinds of labels that people use. And I'm going to, let's see here. Take this item barcode, show you here. And let's say we want to make a so this is one of our spine labels, pretty simple. If I want to do a duplicate item, it gives me this duplicate LCCN. So it will do whatever you need. And it detects things like, this isn't a fixed shelf item. Are you sure you want to do this? There are lots of those sorts of like warnings built in, which is pretty helpful. It lets people override things. And also with the labels, these are fully editable. So you know, this is taking the metadata, but if you have things you need to add or things you need to shorten, people do that all the time. We've been responding to people. The labels are a little tricky. I think labels are tricky for a lot of people. And we've been getting lots of feedback from the catalogers. This is too long. Where's this? Where's this? And so this has been a real tweaking process, but we're getting there. Let me see here. Oops, we're back in labels. I'll show you this too. So I'm going to stop talking so you can ask questions. The user is built in. So anytime you need to use your staff code, it goes into a catalog record. You have that. This shows all of our roles, and this has been incredibly helpful. So people know what they have in each of the tenants. Copy catalog. This gives you a sense of what the rules are. Same thing. People like transparency. People like to know what's going on. Let's see. I think I should stop talking so people can ask questions. But yeah, I'll let you. I think. Would you like to wrap up?
Yeah. Where's our PowerPoint?
Don't ask me.
Christy, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Christy. Where are we? I'm just going to wrap up the slides really quickly so you can ask some questions, and we're going to be around a little while longer probably, or I will be, to be able to chat with some of you. Christy kind of talked about a lot of this already while we're going on, but why this is important slide, which I hope we're sharing on Zoom and the screen. Okay. You know, rapid prototyping is part of this, does not require development within Folio, and can be a testing and proving ground for future Folio features. All of this has been very exciting for us to work on. And looking ahead, we're really working on ways to best share this with the community. I already could see some of the chats were coming up on screen, and people are clearly asking about this, which we know would be the case. It's in progress. We don't have something to give you today. All of these pieces are not equally easy to share either. So a sneak preview of upcoming work we're going to be doing. We have a browser extension. It's pretty heavily built around our needs, but we're going to work to make that more generic. It is something that I think we can share and people will be able to use. Also, there will be other institutions, not everyone, of course, but some people will be able to take what we've done and do your own stuff with it. That's something that there are people in the community who can work with browser extensions from a tech viewpoint. The Folio productivity toolkit that we showed, which we can talk about the technical components of that also if you have questions about it, will be a little harder for us to share. And I was talking to Whit about this last week. It might also just be a proof of concept rather than something that other people are going to be able to immediately use. But we definitely want to share our approaches, our techniques, the ideas we had behind it, and talk about building platforms around Folio. And then finally, we want to identify a community-wide venue for discussing the broader Folio ecosystem, including tools like this. Just here this week, I saw some great presentations from other folks, people at Lehigh, people at Oklahoma State, and I know there are other institutions that have done a lot of cool work on their own. We're relatively new to Folio. We don't always know what people worked on in the past, like what kinds of little groups emerged or disappeared or faded away for discussing, sharing all of this kind of work. If anyone wants to enlighten us, that's something we're interested in, but also we can also take some initiative to reach out and say, we really want to be talking about this. Let's discuss the right venues in Folio for discussing this, for dropping code, for setting up repos, for sharing out documentation, all of that kind of work, so that we don't always have to reinvent the wheel. I don't think all of this is going to be, there's no drop-in solution that works for everyone. Clearly, we've customized a lot of this work to our own needs, but I think it's really cool to look at. And I'm going to stop talking so you can ask questions, but we're really excited to share this with you, and we're going to continue to be sharing to the extent we possibly can.
You have a question?
Thanks for a great presentation. A couple questions from the chat. The first one, what are the best channels to get updates on progress right now?
Yeah, you tell us. You can reach out to Caitlin, me, or Christy, or like chat us all three on Slack or whatever, to start having that conversation. We'd like to know from you as well where you want to be hearing from this. Did you have something to say, Caitlin?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I went to the implementers working group. Was that yesterday? And like maybe that's a good forum for us to share out. We basically, we're having requests and suggestions from you guys is really helpful. So let us know. Let's see. Shall we are there more questions from the chat that we should do before we...
There's one more.
Okay, great.
Next question. How does the auto DOI work? How would you assess the reliability of notations obtained from this tool?
So we have built-in logic that was actually used in the, well, I don't think it was called AutoDewey, but we had a similar tool in Voyager. So it is hard-coded based on the rules. It's been tested extensively. It's very reliable. And we have another option where because this is one of the nice things about these tools. There's often a few things that you can do. It also will search OCLC, find the same title. If you would rather take that DOI number, you can. Very often they're the same. But yeah, that's how it's built.
Let's see. Autumn, did you have a question? Yes, we're gonna do Autumn and then Mark. I'll get you next.
Yeah, Mark, can you help? Yeah.
Hi, Autumn from Michigan State. Wow. This seems like at least in the amount of clicks that our staff are doing each day. I wondered specifically if you have found a way to jump directly, let's say you have an item barcode, so getting to a specific holdings record instead of the instance view, or a specific item instead of the instance view when you're doing the searching and inventory. Is that a feature of your?
No, the answer is no.
Okay.
We also have some complications because we have an ECS system, which actually makes that even harder to do, because people have to be in a data tenant,
Sure.
then the right data tenant. And in our implementation, people are jumping between different data tenants. It's actually not easy to do. We might come up with more solutions for this, but we don't really have one now.
Okay. Well, it does a lot already. So good job, you guys.
I'll add to that also that that sounds like a great use case. And in our dream, there are lots of people creating their own apps and adding back to this. We are still very much like freshly in implementation mode right now. Like we're still developing. I mean, WIT was pumping stuff out this week, right?
Yeah, we have releases.
Weekly.
Yeah, many times a month.
We looked up like I think 60,000 records have been created in Folio since we went live. So we're still very much like dealing with our implementation. We don't have the bandwidth to like manage another open source product. So like ideas for how that could happen are welcome. So sounds like a good use case. Hope you do it. All right, I think Mark in the back there.
Thank you. Yeah, it's wow, and then very impressive and very exciting. I had a couple of comments actually in terms of how to make it available to the community, maybe as a way to integrate it into the development lifecycle. So there is a snapshot environment that is being recreated every night, and maybe we can set up browser extensions that point to the snapshot environment. The other option would be to align it with Bugfest and make it available during Bugfest, so that and here's my plug for involving the community even more in Bugfest testing. This is a great opportunity to test all of the new features in Folio, and maybe use newly developed productivity tools. And maybe we can have another SIG called Productivity Tools, whose focus is only going to be on the productivity tools.
Thank you so much, Mark. All right, Owen up front.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, obviously really impressive stuff, and I can see why it's got so many people excited in the room and online. I'm wondering about especially the browser extension and the form filling, and kind of my immediate reaction, apart from it's brilliant, is this going to be really fragile to changes we make in the UI? And obviously as a product owner, then generally I'm worried about we need to keep the API stable, but it doesn't really matter what we do on top of that as long as users are happy with the changes we're making. And this makes me think, like, if we do, I mean, I can already thinking like, oh, there's some changes in the serials template stuff in the next release. Is that going to break all the stuff that you've worked so hard to make really easy for your staff? And therefore, you're going to be less happy by things that I thought were improvements. So yeah, I guess like that question about, have you given that any thought in terms of like how you keep this sustainable going forward? Is it susceptible to that kind of breakage? And yeah, any other thoughts you have on that topic?
Yeah, you take it. I have an idea, but
I have thoughts, but I don't have an answer to you either. Yes and no. I would say I didn't do any of this work. I think that some of it probably is anticipating your concern, which is our concern as well. We're concerned about the fragility of all of this stuff. But at the same time, we've been able to cycle through some of our internal development so fast that I think a UI change is not something that we'd be frightened about. And I don't think there's any intention on our side here to say like, we don't want Folio to change its UI or the forms, because that's certainly not our intent. We're trying to complement Folio rather than compete with Folio in any way.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the big advantages here obviously is that you're not restricted by the release cycle that Folio is in. So
Absolutely.
like you can make those agile changes so much more quickly. I mean, I wish that we could be releasing Folio at like that cadence, but although it's interesting, one of the downsides of that is obviously that often the feedback we get from users is too much change is a problem as well. But I guess that you dealing with that internally at the moment. There's a lot of change. This is the
Right.
least
When everything changes, it's pretty easy to just do a little bit more.
Any other questions? I think we're at time, but we can stick around if anyone.
Yeah, I don't know if there's someone in the room right after us.
No, I think there's a break.
There's a break. Okay, cool.
Question in the chat. Do you have or plan to develop an automatic way or tool to update and maintain related instance or bib records when an authority record is added or updated? Yeah. Do you have or plan to develop an automatic way or tool to update and maintain related instance and bib records when an authority record is added or updated?
I mean, Folio kind of has this. It's not foolproof. And so the authority linking is something we're actually really kind of in experimentation mode with, rather than at production scale working with the Folio linking between authorities and bib records. I don't know how many people are using the authorities app in Folio other than us, possibly very few. So we're in a different situation maybe than a lot of people, because we're storing our authority records and creating them in Folio itself, which is a little different than I'm thinking probably most people are. That need is real, and we're still figuring it out.
Cool. Any other questions? Should we wrap it? Wrap up here?
And like I said, if people want to talk the tech part of this a little, I'm happy to chat. I didn't do the work, but I can talk to it a little bit after this if people want to grab me.